Go live, and we are live. So we're going to give people some time to come on in. For those of you that are joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome on this beautiful Thursday. A beautiful, beautiful Thursday that we get to see. I like to call it Thankful Thursday.
Yes, it
I
is.
say Wonderful Wednesday, Thankful Thursday. I see we have one that is awesome. Whomever you are, if you're not too shy, you can wave at us. We're not going to ask you to come on and speak. We just want to say hello. And I see we have two more people come on in. As you come in, I want to welcome you to the Women's Champ Show. I am so grateful that I have an opportunity to chat with this lady for the next hour, the beautiful Chamika Ellis. And Chamika, what we can do in the meantime is share the live to our page and encourage. Hi, Gina. Look, now you know. Let me tell you something. There is. Do you know that's my cousin?
Yes, I know.
Girl, listen, let me tell you something. There is a guy that Gina's a Gina. Thank you, Gina, for saying hi. Gina must like you, Chamika. Okay, I know my cousin.
Look, Gina, we go way back.
Really?
We went to Hartford together.
I figure Milwaukee is. I tell people Milwaukee is a big little city. It's big enough for you to not run into people, but small enough where all you have to do is ask people what year did they graduate and what high school or middle school did they go to.
And everybody knows somebody.
We all know some of the same people. So if you haven't done so already, please share this show with your friends and your family. You can go to RE, which I was just there and I took myself out. RETV Talk, streaming positive Black entertainment on Facebook. And you can also just share the stream directly if you're watching it on, hi Lisa, if you're watching it on YouTube as well. You can go ahead. Oh, some of your people, good. Coming in supporting you. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and share it to my page.
I'm doing the same.
You're doing the same. Okay. Good. Hi, Narada. Oh man. So we will talk because I feel like Chamika, a lot of what you have to say is going to be so inspirational to a lot of people, and people look at that beautiful smile, your bubbly personality, and have no idea what you've gone through. And I had no idea what you had gone through either. I don't know it in detail, but I will tell you what made me think of you as to why I wanted to interview you. Okay. I will tell you in a moment. So again, we welcome all of you for coming. We're going to jump in because I know when there is a great conversation, the time goes by so fast.
Yeah. Hi, Steve.
Thank you for joining, Steve. The time goes by so fast, and I want to get as much as I can out of you.
Awesome.
Because I'm going to respect your time. If you guys haven't done so, subscribe to Relationship Entertainment Television. That is the reason why we are able to be here tonight. Tell your friends and your family to join in and listen to the story of this beautiful lady. I'm going to tell you this, Chamika. For me, some people are hung up on celebrities, and that's no knock to them, but I like to speak to the everyday woman. Mm-hmm. And every one of us has some story. There's something there's something that we've gone through to bring us to our now.
Right.
And oftentimes people just judge us by where we are right now, not understanding that there were some roadblocks, some dips, some turns, some pauses that we experienced to get to where we are today. So tell us, where are you today?
Location wise or just
not location. We don't want to go with
location. I was like,
no, not location. But just where are you today? Where you are today, did you imagine that? Let's just say, because we were talking about being in our 40s, 25 years ago, did you see where you are today?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I had no idea 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I had no idea that I would make it to 40. Let's start there. Let alone 41. Mm-hmm. I I had no idea that I would be pursuing a whole PhD.
Mm.
Like unimaginable to me.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody would have told me that 25, 30 years ago, I would have been like, girl, you
Mm.
lying. So just being able to pursue, a doctorate, to um, be able to make an impact in a variety of people's lives, and the work that I do as a student affairs professional,
Okay.
um, to be able to even have the friends that I have,
Mm-hmm.
there's no way. And for those that know me, that knew me, especially during my college days,
Mm-hmm.
questionable.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I every day I sometimes sit back, and I had a moment today, just today, and I'll share
Mm.
that a little bit later, where I was just like, wow, God, you are really great. You're
Mm-hmm.
amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just for all the things that I have been through to be where I am now, because
Mm.
there are statistics that show that I'm not supposed to be in the
Mm.
position that I'm in right now.
Right.
Being, you know, a young black woman that came from foster care, that is an adoptee and grew up in an abusive household. Absolutely not.
Mm.
So it's just amazing that I'm here, and I'm here being interviewed. Like, I'm like, whoa.
No, here's the thing. To hear your story again, like for some of you that don't know, I met Chamika in high school, and so many years have lapsed, gone by since then, and thank you. I want to make sure I pronounce it right, because some people say Leroy. Thank you for sharing. Leroy with the goals. All right, I love the goals. Thank you for sharing this, because I believe that a lot of people will benefit from your story. But looking at you, we met in high school. And what I remember from you, because I was a couple of grades ahead of you, we didn't have any classes together, but I just remember speaking to you in the hallway.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had, of course, when we're in high school, for some people, and I said this to a friend before, school period can be an escape for some of us
Mm-hmm.
because of what we're dealing with at home. And there
Yeah.
can be a lot going on at home. So I'm going to tell you what I didn't know about you in high school. I had no idea that you were in foster care. I did not find that out, Chamika, until I posted a video on Facebook 5 years ago, almost 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And in the video, I, for some reason or another, thought it'd be a good idea to be a police officer. I wanted to
Oh
be,
yeah.
yeah, I, and here's the thing. And at first I was like, well, I'm not going to put a video up here. And I just failed this physical, right? But the purpose of it was to talk to people about determination, perseverance, not giving up, like don't quit. I wanted to tell people that. And so I was so excited. I'm like, okay, I passed the written test and missed the physical by 1 minute. And I said, man, if I had just honestly prepared my body, I would have passed that. But that's not the path I was supposed to take.
Mm-hmm.
So it resonated with some people, and it also resonated with you. I don't know if you remember exactly what you wrote, but all I can tell you is, and I hope I don't come to tears, but you commented on my page.
I remember exactly what it was, because it's the one thing that stood out about you that I've held with me for many years. But I'll let you continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I'm going to let you tell them the story, because at the time, and I thank you all for joining us. I thank everybody for joining us. If you haven't already, please share this conversation. You can send the link. If you're watching on YouTube, send it to some people.
Mm-hmm.
They are going to benefit from this, because although somebody may not be pursuing their doctorate, there is something that you are pursuing. There's something that you want. And some of us have not always had the best childhood.
Right.
But this lady right here is a champion. You are a fighter. And I had no idea what you were dealing with, but I just want you to know that your message humbled me. So I want you to share with everyone that day what happened? Because you all, what she's about to tell you is what she posted under my video. And I didn't want to put up this video about me failing a test, essentially, but I just encourage people to keep going. Like I kept going, knowing that I wasn't going to pass. I made sure I finished the test. So Chamika, you
yeah. So in high school, I was obviously in foster care in high school, and we had gym class, and you had to have a specific type of gym shoe, right? Like, and my shoes were not appropriate for gym class. And during that time, me and you, we had crossed. I think you were leaving your block because it was on block scheduling, and I was getting ready to come into mine, and I didn't have any tennis shoes, and so I was like, well, I'm just gonna skip gym. I've never skipped school a day in my life until college, but I never skipped high school. None of that. And I was like, I'm just not gonna go. So I just kind of sat in the locker room. I was like, I'm not gonna go. And I just remember you looking at me and was just like, what you doing? Why you not getting dressed? I was like, I don't have any shoes. I'm just gonna sit here until class is over. And you were like, and you literally gave me your shoes. You gave me your shoes. Yeah, and it just so happened that we could fit the same size shoe at that time. And I, against my own will, I was like, I guess I'm gonna go. I got these shoes. I really don't have an excuse, and I went. But I hold that with me because it just reminded me there were people that were looking out for me. So when you posted that message about not giving up and just kind of keep going, you were determined to make sure that I kept going. And it's something I hold with me as I work with my students and really try to be that person to keep them, to give them that gentle nudge to keep going. So it really is something I hold a lot of very, what may seem like not big moments to other people. They make a big deal, and they really do shape how kind of I show up as a professional, as a human, and even in moments where I'm probably not the best friend or whatever to somebody else. I remember folks like you that were giving me that gentle nudge, and I have to remind myself, like, oh God, you really did put people in my life, and I didn't realize the impact until much later. So yeah, it was just a pivotal moment that honestly I remembered. I continue to remember, and I share that story a lot with my students that I've worked with in the past. And it's something that I really do hold with me. So I'm glad that, we friended each other on social medias for me to share that with you, because I'm like, wow, she really didn't know that. And so it was like perfect timing.
Yes. I had no idea, because what you wrote was that and I think I did screenshot it, so it's somewhere in my Google Photos, but you said that your foster mother refused to buy you.
Yeah, I did. I didn't have a good pair of shoes. Like, she did not. I was walking around with shoes that were talking. Very humbling experience. A very, I don't know. In a lot of ways painful. And fair. Absolutely not. Did I deserve that? No. But back then, I'm thinking maybe I probably did deserve it. I'm an angsty teenager, right?
Yeah.
But the fact that there was somebody like a literal guardian angel like yourself that just did that small act of kindness really, really, really means a lot to me.
I need you to know that I had a feeling like this story would bring me to tears, Chamika, because it's as if I could feel your pain. And all I saw in the hallway was this young lady that was always smiling. You always spoke to me. You were always so pleasant and a smile on your face. So I had no idea that such a beautiful young lady as yourself was going through something like that at that time. And like you said, sometimes we discount just those things that we consider small.
Right.
We don't know what's going through someone's head. We are in a society now where saying hello to people almost scares them. Just saying hi.
Absolutely.
Okay. Like, people get startled. I'm like, if we're going to stare at each other for 25 seconds, I think at this point, one of us needs to be nodding our head or saying hi or something.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
But We don't know what that would do for someone else. And that humbled me. I mean, out of all of the comments, I said that it really humbled me. And I said, wow, look at where she is now. And it never left. So when my cousin challenged me, and I do call this a challenge to interview women because it was not something I thought I would be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe that through us being transparent and sharing our stories, it will bring healing for others.
Right.
Some people may not be that kind. Maybe it may help them to be more kind.
Right. Right.
Some people may not be humble. Maybe that will help them be more humble, to understand, like, and to teach their children to be kind,
Right.
because everybody, you know what I'm saying? Listen, I know how children, we were children. We know
Mm-hmm.
how children can be. And I believe that that's why we have to get these types of conversations out to talk to the world. So look at where you are now. After high school, how was it for you with the transition going into college, and what made you decide to even go into this particular field?
It's interesting you asked me about my transition because that's literally the topic of my dissertation. It's literally my topic is on Black women in foster care and how they experience transition. Title TBD right now. So if my advisor, Dr. Robinson, is watching, I'm working on
Can I
it.
tell you all something? Let me just pause here. If I need you all to know something. I did not know what I was going to title the name of this show. I didn't ask you. I didn't call Chamika and say,
Not
"Hey, let's talk about this." I just knew from the post that you put on my page almost 5 years ago. That's when I found out that you were in foster care. And then to see that you had a transparent moment on social media when you were just like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna get this paper done. And I'm like, she's going for her doctorate. I said, so from foster to doctor. I just wanted to pause there and let everybody know.
yeah,
We haven't had a conversation. I haven't spoken to Chamika or seen her since 1998.
right. Not at all.
So to hear this is just flat out amazing. But please keep going. So I'm in awe. I really am, that is what you are writing about.
Yeah. So transition from college, high school to college, the normal transition, first gen college student, nobody else really knew in my family really knew what to expect in terms of college. I just remember going to orientation and just like registering for my classes and that type of thing. I think
Mhm.
it was when, oh man, I would say a couple of weeks in, I got on campus, got a job. I knew a few people here and there. Um, but I will say overall, my adjustment was more challenging than I really thought it was.
Okay.
Um, there were moments where, like I think about family weekends. Most colleges and universities have some type of family weekend where their parents typically come back. I didn't have that. I didn't have the moments where um, my mom would come see me or that type of thing. My siblings were younger, so they didn't have the ability to come up without my mom. And I didn't really have the greatest relationship with my
Okay.
mom. And so it was very isolating. Um, I think a very pivotal moment for me, one that sticks out, it's like a core memory for me, was my freshman year. I'm making friends, we're going to parties, we're going to spring break, and I'm planning to go to spring break. We went to Daytona Beach. What a time.
Mhm.
2000s was a time. We're going to spring break. I go back
Mhm.
to Milwaukee to go to my foster parents' house. She was the last foster parent before I aged out, and we had a really good connection. I remember going back to go get my hair braided, all that good stuff, and I went to use my key, and the door was locked. I mean, the key would not work.
Okay.
And so luckily she pulled up as I was like, okay, I'm kind of stuck. What do I do?
Mhm.
And what I was told was that because I was 18 and I was living on campus, in undergrad, that I I didn't necessarily need to continue to come home to Milwaukee. So at that point, I became homeless. I was able to stay for the weekend, but I became homeless. So it was kind of those moments where I was like, okay, I'm doing this college thing by myself. I don't really have family that I can go to for advice or whatever. The only thing they can tell me is don't quit, which yes, is what they're gonna tell you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't have a home to go to. Like I'm literally couch surfing. So my home became UW Parkside. That's where I went to undergrad. Shout out to my Rangers. But legitimately, I was homeless. And I at the time I didn't think I was homeless because I'm
Oh,
like, I have a place to live on
mhm.
campus.
Right.
Not taking into consideration breaks, when people typically go home and that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
My transition was really, really hard from that standpoint of not really having strong familial support.
Mm-hmm.
I had to rely, and honestly, that's why I had to rely so heavily on my friends. And that's
Mm.
why my mantra is like friends are the family you choose, because
Yeah.
in those moments, my friends that like my roommates in college, those
Mm-hmm.
are the ones that really pushed me and lifted me up, because if they didn't do that, I didn't have, getting emotional again. I knew this was gonna happen.
It's
Um,
okay.
I had it not been for them and the folks at my undergrad, like professors and advisors and that type of thing, and my hall directors, I don't know. I don't know if I would have literally been living. I had
Wow.
one suicide attempt that was unsuccessful. I am very grateful that it was unsuccessful, but yeah, it was really rough. I went through a depression, and I didn't know I was depressed really,
Mm-hmm.
until I went to see the counselor on campus. I struggled academically, um, to the point where I got suspended. Like
Mm.
I had to actually go through an appeal process to go back in to get back into school without having to take time out, because I'm like, for me, if I have to leave the university for a semester, I don't have a plan B.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
My plan A was the only plan that I had. Um, so I had to appeal to get back into school. And I think it was from that point just really working my butt off. Just, you know, realizing that I can't keep up with the Joneses. I can't go to all the
Mm-hmm.
parties and all the things, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so academically, it was a huge transition. I think the other part where I really struggled in is just my own mental health and how to regulate my own emotions. I
Okay.
think I held on to so much resentment and anger and took it out on the wrong people.
Okay.
Um, I remember a moment where my roommate, she's my lifelong roommate, I call her, because we were literally roommates in undergrad and then in grad school for a
Wow.
year and then briefly, living out here. Um, but I remember having a moment where I don't even know what she said. I couldn't even remember. She probably has a better memory than me, but well, I know she does, but I just remember going off on her, and I remember throwing like a soda can at her. Like
Mm.
I look back at that now, I'm like, it's so cringy now. Like I'm like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I had really had a hard time regulating my own emotions,
Mm-hmm.
um, because all I knew growing up in my very dysfunctional household was, communicating through cursing somebody out,
Okay.
threatening to beat somebody's, what. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so honestly, I don't even really think I got to a point of addressing a lot of that trauma
Yeah.
until well into my adulthood. Well, into my adulthood. Like I'm talking like maybe like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Um,
Wow.
so that's the bridge version of my, kind of my experience through college. um, I think what made me choose student affairs as a profession honestly came from the stereotypical. What if you talk to any student affairs professional and you ask them how they got into the field, they'll say it's probably because they got involved doing something while on a college campus.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
did everything but be an RA. I was an orientation leader. I was a campus ambassador. I was president of a student organization. I was involved in our Black Student Union. I just
Mhm.
did all of these things on campus, super involved.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember my advisor, well, she was over our orientation program. She was saying how she went to school for higher ed. Um, and I was like, what that mean? And she was like, oh, basically what I do now, like you could get a degree. And I was like, wait, I can get a degree and having fun? What? Because it was fun. I'm giving tours
Yeah.
to people, I'm interacting,
Yes.
because
Yes.
that's how I was able to, in a lot of ways, self-soothe, is by being involved and kind of presenting this bubbly facade. And in a lot of ways, it still was genuine, but
Yes.
it was my way of not dealing with what I should have dealt with back then, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, bet I'm gonna do it. But I was like, I don't know if I really want to go to school right now after graduation. So I took a gap year and moved to New York, of all places. I moved to New York. I met this little ashy boy um, at Howard's homecoming. I went to Howard's homecoming.
Ooh.
Met this boy, fell in love. So I thought, and I was like, I want to be close. And
Mm-hmm.
um, I moved to New York to be with him, but I also got a job too. So it wasn't all kind of,
Mm-hmm.
nothing. But I knew I wanted to go back to school. So I started applying and ended up going to get my master's degree, left New York, went to Arkansas. Um, and I had the best time. The best time. I felt prepared.
Okay.
I just felt really good. I have it, getting a master's degree or getting a graduate degree is always challenging. Uh-oh.
I know. I'm here. Just keep
Oh, okay,
going.
okay, cool. Had the best time, had an amazing grad assistantship, so my tuition was covered. Um, and ultimately that's kind of what led me to where I am now, working, in student affairs, working with students, um, managing crises. I work in res life,
Mm,
so
okay.
a lot of that was managing crises, but supporting students as they are adjusting to college. I worked with a range from upper class students, so seniors, all the way down to
Mhm.
freshmen. But for the longest duration of my career, I worked with college freshmen. And
Well, it's not a surprise.
right, I was
Considering what you experienced, and you were at a breaking point. To go back, for those of you that are just tuning in, I really implore you to go back and watch the beginning of the show, because Chamika's story is so touching. If you just tuned in, and also I forgot to let you all know, we like for you to ask questions. If you all have questions for Chamika, um, just be respectful. I told her I will not ask her embarrassing questions, but I wanted this to be a free flowing conversation. And we all really do welcome you all to not only make comments, and we thank you all for being interactive, but you're free to ask her a question. But it's, one thing that I've realized as I've gotten older is that a lot of what we've gone through, it was to help other people. So you would have the sensitivity to those students because you were there, and you don't know all of their stories, but just thinking about where you were. Some people take positions because it sounds good. It sounds like, oh, I'm going to do this because of the title. This
right.
sounds great, but they don't know how to connect with the human beings that they're working with.
Oh, say that again, because there's some people that need to hear that now. They need to hear that now. But yeah, I think being in student affairs and in higher ed has given me a higher level of empathy. Yeah, I always say that empathy is one of my superpowers, and
Mm-hmm.
um, it has allowed me to be able to connect with folks in different way. And I remember in an interview, uh, uh, for the job that the place where I work right now, I one of the things that I started with was like, I am an alumna of foster care, and it's not to say that it defines me, but in some ways it does, because it does shape how I move through life because of the
Mm-hmm.
experiences that I had. Some people say like, oh, my personal and my professional life are completely separate, which can be for some people, but not
Uh-huh.
for me, because
Yes.
there's a lot of overlap with how I um, kind of approach people and approach life.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does it always work to my advantage? No, because sometimes I have to think more logically instead of with my emotion. Um, and that
Mm-hmm.
feels hard. Um, but yeah, my experiences with foster care and even just the the things that led me into foster care. Like, so quick story, really quickly.
Okay.
My birth mother has schizophrenia, so she had mental illness, so she was not capable of taking care of me and my siblings. So that's what initially got us into foster care. I was
Okay.
adopted out of foster care, um, with my siblings, with my biological siblings. So thankfully, we were never separated. My adoptive mother, um, while I'm grateful to her for adopting us and giving us stability, um, there was a lot of dysfunction and a lot of physical abuse. And I think it's important for me to say that out loud. And I can't believe I'm saying that out loud on a large platform, because it's the first
Mhm.
time I'm acknowledging that. Because
Mm.
a lot of times, especially in the Black community, we like to sweep that abuse, that trauma under the rug. And
Mm-hmm.
I told myself going into my 40th, you know, decade, that I was no longer going to continue to do that. And so I ended up back in foster care as a teenager because of a lot of physical abuse. Um,
Mm.
and so, kind of navigating my way through that trauma while trying to navigate growing up very quickly was a lot. And so um, as I think about where I am now, and working with folks that may have different levels of it might not be as extreme as mine. It might be more extreme than mine, but just coming in with that empathy, and just understanding that everyone has a story and everyone
Mm-hmm.
is going to process life differently, and it's my job to just kind of help you along, and help you process what that looks like for you. Um,
Because you've done the work. You
right.
do have you've done the work. Someone has a question for you. So Narada said, such an amazing story. Ever thought of writing a book?
I have actually. I'm currently. It's probably going to be after I write the longest book report of my life, aka a dissertation. That's 5 chapters. So, I have thought about it, but one step at a time. But
Yes.
it's funny that he brought that up, and other folks have said that to me, and I'm like, no, ain't nobody trying to hear me. And I think there's been a number of people that I've kind of really, spoke that on my life, and spoke that into existence for me. So I'm like, all right, God, I hear you. I was like, maybe that's God talking to me through them. And I'm like, okay, okay.
Shamika, we have to look at it like this. There's someone's story that resonated with you when
Hmm.
they told it,
Yes.
right?
Hmm.
So there's going to be countless young people that are going to be in the foster system
Yeah,
while they are in high school,
absolutely.
while they are in college. How do I transition? What do I do? And something that you said earlier, you know, friends can be the family that you want, as you said, it's somewhere along those
Friends can be
lines
the family that you choose.
that you choose. And I think oftentimes we have focused, and you guys may hear me say this again, but oftentimes we focus on the people that we are related to. And I heard a preacher put it this way: just because you're related, it does not make you relatable.
Ooh,
So
that's a good.
that right there, I believe if we would start talking about that more, it would help us to be grateful for the people
Hmm.
that God has strategically placed in our lives. What they're not blood, that whole blood is thicker than water thing, but they love you. They loved Shamika enough to make sure that you were going to finish school. So those some of them they don't have that. You may be that person with your words
Yeah.
in that book that you one day will write.
I'm, trying to get there. You said something about, people loving you, even if they're not family, right? And
Yeah.
I think that has really helped me, especially in the times where I have, imposter syndrome is a real thing.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
you talk to anybody that's going through a doctoral program, absolutely. But
Mhm.
syndrome for me has shown up the majority of my life because I've been told for a good chunk of my life, in the more impressionable years, that I wasn't going to amount to anything. I've been told that by foster parents. I've been told that by just people at high school that I wasn't going to amount to anything. And I think once you hear that for so long, you believe it. I'm 41. I'm still working on my own self worth, and,
Mm-hmm.
and so when I hear things like, "Oh, you should write a book or you should do this," and I'm like, I have to still try to reframe myself because I'm like, oh, I don't, nobody wants to hear that story, or maybe, but I'm like, I'm still trying to work on my faith in myself and faith that God will present me with these opportunities to do this.
And he will, because I'm going to tell you something. Somebody, I can't, I don't know your name because it just shows Facebook user, but somebody wrote, I would so read it. There are a lot of people that will read it. Oftentimes we minimize our stories because we aren't on some national platform. Oh, great time for me to just stop with this brief little plug.
Right.
We were able to come on tonight because of Relationship Entertainment Television. And this is owned by a husband and wife team, black couple. They wanted to make sure that we're able to get our stories out. And we don't discriminate, but to get our stories out, to have a platform where it can be educational and entertaining as well. But I told you in the email, I knew that somehow or another your words would bring healing. That's my whole goal with the Women's Champ. I want people to be helped, and this is therapeutic for you right now, for you to even share.
Very much. I was telling my advisor, when you presented this to me, and I um, told him that he was the kind of the catalyst for it, because I took a class maybe 2 years ago now. It was a narrative inquiry class, and I literally had to write about myself. And
Mm,
I tell you, the waterworks writing this paper, I'm like, I don't know if I can finish this. Like, and he warned us. He was like, when you write this, you need to make sure you have somebody you trust, you can talk to, whether it's a therapist, a trusted
mhm,
friend, something you're going to need time to process. And
mhm,
all those things that I had kind of, it's like, oh yeah, this happened. And I would talk about it very lackadaisically, right? Just meh, yeah, this happened. And in a way to kind of not, because I didn't want to bring anybody to feel sympathy for me. But as I'm writing it, I'm like, oh my God, like this is a lot. So even talking about it out loud is kind of that going in the right direction, as I want to do this for other, women, in my dissertation, to hear their stories. But in order to be able to help them share their stories, I got to share mine. So I appreciate the platform to be able to do it.
I am so grateful that you are here. And while you were talking, I went back to the fact of, I just saw the bubbly Chamika at school in the hallway, and because of our age difference, we did not have classes together, but you always spoke.
Hmm.
And I'm like, a pair of shoes helped you that day. A pair of used shoes
Yep. Yep.
did something for you that day.
It did. It did. It made sure I'd passed gym class one and graduated on
Right? Right.
past gym class. But it meant a lot that you didn't really know me, and I honestly, not think about it, I don't even know if you knew that I knew Gina. So I'm like,
Mm-mm,
yeah. so
mm-mm.
so I was like, oh, my friend from middle school's cousin just gave me a pair of shoes to make sure I got through gym class. And so it was just those, like I said, little moments that in the moment I was like, oh, really? Thank you. And it was like maybe a little bit after, I'm like, wow, I should tell her thank you. But, I was just kind of like, kind of
Yeah.
shy-ish.
Yeah.
We were older, part of the cool kids club.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, it really is those little moments, that I do try to tell folks that I encounter, like those little moments really do make a big deal.
Yeah.
And I do try to hold on to those, and also try to um, give them their proverbial flowers, or maybe sometimes literal flowers, while they are here.
Right.
Because, that whole saying, you never know what somebody's going through.
Mm-hmm.
Very much so. Like, there are people, when I started to share my story in bits and pieces on social media,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely had no idea that
Mm-hmm.
I was, in foster care, or even those that knew me when I was adopted, um, and not back in foster care, that I was getting my butt beat. Like, and not like I'm gonna get a whooping. I'm talking like I'm gonna get beat like I'm off the street. Um,
Okay.
so trigger warning for those that aren't listening. There are, elements of abuse. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, there are, I would go to school and figure out, how am I going to hide this bruise, or, maybe I should, just put on this bubbly personality, because then nobody will ask, like, why am I afraid to go home after school? School, literally, people say, like, oh, you just go forever be in school. I'm like, school legitimately saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yes.
it literally was a safe haven for me. And even when I was in foster care, I just never really felt like I fit in. I felt like there were homes that I was in that I felt like they really did love me,
Mm-hmm.
but they couldn't afford to kind of keep me. And I'm older. And then
Yeah.
there are no foster homes where I was in a foster home and where they were doing it for the money.
Mm-hmm.
So there really was um, no reason to, beyond the providing me with the basic needs, food, shelter, clothing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
there was no need for um, the nurturing, the love and affection, and I already didn't really get a lot of nurturing from my mom to begin with.
Yes.
So it's just kind of having to learn how to get ask for that. If
Yeah.
this is what I need, but also when I get it, it was such a foreign concept to me.
Mm-hmm.
Accept that if I've never
Yeah.
really had it, or it's always come in the form of love was shown through, like, I don't know, like I'm getting cursed out, or, something like that,
Yeah.
or so, yeah.
I know a lot of you that are watching, some of you, I know a good amount of you are on here because you know Chamika personally, and I just want to thank you for tuning in. And some of them may not have known, I can't see everyone unless they comment, they may not have known the depths of what you have experienced and just where you are today. And I just think about, we think about the seeds that are planted, and I'm just thankful that there were some kind people along the way for you where, Chamika, I'm so grateful that your suicide attempt
I thank
didn't
God
go
that that was
forward.
not successful at all. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the only time that I've ever actively attempted. I've had thoughts in the past. I haven't had a suicidal ideation in years. I can't
Yeah.
even count, but that was the only active attempt that I've made. Um, I don't even think a lot of people that are even, watching that know me knew that. Um, because it's just one of those things for that I've just kind of like held on to, because for shame, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Especially working in a field where I would respond to incidents where I'm helping a student go through a mental health crisis, right?
Mm-hmm.
Helping them get the help that they need, because I'm not a trained therapist at all. Shout out to those that are.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of encouraging them, like, it's okay to seek help, and it's okay to talk to a therapist. Those,
Mm-hmm.
and especially for those that identify as Christian,
Yeah.
I think there's this interesting dichotomy. It's where you just pray it away, and I'm like, God blesses people with the gift of being therapists. Like, that is a gift ordained by God. We should use
Absolutely.
them.
Hmm. We
So
should. And speaking of, we have one. If she's still here, she can put her information in if she's
oh,
still listening.
please do. I'm always trying to
Lauren,
get people.
Lauren Todd. We have one that I know she commented earlier, but if you're still there, Lauren, please, please, please,
Plug,
comprehensive wellness and
plug.
watching.
And if you're in Milwaukee, I have some family members that probably need to talk to you.
Yes,
So,
she is actually she's in Milwaukee.
let's do
So
it.
the thing is that it doesn't hurt to just give some information.
Right.
And it goes a long way. And we kind of touched on that, briefly before we went live.
Hmm.
But I think what happens is, Chamika, because of your experience with the attempt, those students that you speak to, it may help relax them a bit
Right.
because they see you now. And for some people, you all, let me tell you all something. For some of us, we are that face of hope that others need. And this is somebody that walked around and smiled. Like I said, I hadn't seen you since 1998. So 20 years had gone by
Yeah.
before I found out that you were even a foster care young lady. And me just being an older student, more like a big sister, like, because you
Yeah.
wrote on there, yeah, you ain't skip. I said, you ain't skipping class either. And I
Mm-hmm.
just walked away
Not
and
at
I
all.
said, that sounds about like me.
Yep. That exactly. It was very on brand.
And that's why when I was getting prepared for this show, I knew a couple of years ago, I was like, when my cousin, challenged me to start interviewing women, I said, I know that I have to interview Chamika. I have to interview her because I felt that your story would be so inspirational to so many people. And again, you all, if you haven't done so already, you are more than welcome to please share this with others because your story, I think about people that haven't even gone through half of what you've just experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, what are our excuses?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like I said, been a journey, but it's definitely taught me a lot of lessons along the way. There's been a lot of trauma, a lot of things that I'm still like realize. I'm like, oh man, this is a trauma. I was talking to my friend and I was just like talking about something, and I was just like, but I didn't do it because that was been a trauma response. So, um, so I think about the lessons that I learned along the way, and I'm excited for what's going to happen in the next couple of years as I especially going through this doctoral program. That is a beast. I jokingly say that doing the doctoral program is the ghetto. It's not really. It kind of is, but not really. It's a degree of perseverance.
Okay.
And
Absolutely.
there's a reason, what is it? 2% of the world's population has a PhD or a doctorate degree. Correct me if I'm wrong for my stats folks. I don't remember if that number has changed, but it has definitely challenged me. But it's also, I knew going into the program, I knew I wanted to, share the stories of foster youth. I just didn't know what that would look like. But it's also forced me to kind of really work through some of my own stuff. To a lot of mental blocks that I've had, a lot of fear, fear of failure, because there's that little teenage Mika voice that's saying, well, remember, these people told you you weren't gonna be nothing anyway. So it's telling me, adult Mika, like, well, you might as well just stop while you're ahead, right?
Oh yes.
But then there's another part of me that's just like, nah, you got to keep going. You've literally come too far. I think, there are some days where I think about quitting the program, taking time off, but I'm like, I'm legitimately too far. Hi, my sister's on. Hi.
Let me pause you right there real quick. Okay, Lauren, okay, maybe it's just a little delayed, but the therapist that I was shouting out, her information should be coming up shortly, you all, and I'm going to put it up there. Okay, thank you, Lauren. Keep going, Chamika.
Perfect. So yeah, just being in this program has really forced me to do a lot of introspection and my own deep reflection and work and a lot of what they call shadow work, if you will, like kind of the areas that I just kind of like casually like, oh, I've dealt with it because out of sight, out of mind, right? But they all surface. And that's probably one of the biggest lessons I've learned along this journey from where I was to where I currently am, is the things that I thought that I had resolved because they were out of sight, out of mind. They will come back up. They will come back up. I'm thankful that I had the the sense that God gave me to seek a therapist when I started the program, and I've been consistent with that, up, to present day. Um, but it's challenged me, because
Yeah.
it's like I said, the statistics for foster youth to graduate high school and go to college, it's what, like, no more than maybe 8-9%.
Wow.
It might have increased since then, right? As we
Hmm.
see more foster youth that go to college. But then when we think about, you know, them, we talk about getting them to college, but what about through college? How they persist and they graduate, and
Student affairs. That's why we have people like you in student
right,
affairs. Yes.
right. And then even, going beyond that, like, for, I would say Black women, we have a, how do I say this? There are more Black women that are graduating from college and getting degrees than any
Hmm.
other demographic, right? But
Hmm.
then I think about, like, what about our foster youth? Those that, just didn't have strong family support and that type of thing. So that's
Hmm.
the work that I want to be able to kind of share with the world, and amplify their voices, because Black women notoriously go ignored. Um, Notoriously, like, what, Black women are not protected, and they go
You will
ignored.
not start this conversation at 8:51 p.m. Okay? Not no, that's another show where we need a group of Black women to come on and
It
talk
is.
about that.
They
But
are
mhm,
notoriously ignored, and even in
mhm,
research, you might get like a demographic, like, a minoritized demographic, right? But then when
mm,
you try to break it down, it's like, where are the Black women?
mm,
What about their stories? What about their voices? You know,
mhm,
we birth your kids. We raise
mm,
your kids. We're influencers. We're the original influencers. So
mhm.
that's, my goal is to be able to amplify the voices of all foster youth, but specifically Black women.
Yes.
So I'm grateful for my journey, from being in foster care for the first time, be- due to mental health reasons, for my mother, my birth mother. Um, I am grateful, and I'm not saying I'm grateful for the abuse. That's not what I'm saying. It's just like, I know that everything happens for a reason, even though in
Yeah.
those moments I'm like, why me? Because there have been many moments where I'm like, I wish I was part of another family.
Yeah.
Whether the Huxtables,
Yes.
we don't want to be part of Huxtables now, but Huxtables, or like, I remember going to school and just be like, man, I wish I could, like, funny story, I don't think I've ever shared this with Gina, so I'm probably putting Gina on the spot. Gina, we knew each other in elementary, middle school. And I remember she used to talk about her family all the time. And her mom would always, not always, but would come up to school, and, she kind of would converse with all of us. And I used to think, like, man, I wish I could just be part of her family,
Wow.
because I didn't have that at home. Like, if I could just take my siblings and we could just go to your house, right?
Hmm.
Because I just did not have that at home. I did not have, I had what I needed. I had food, I had clothing, I had shelter. I was raised with pretty good morals for the most part, right? But there
Hmm.
are a lot of things that I'm like, I have to unlearn. It's similar to what one of my professors from my first year of my program, that program, said, like, you have to unlearn something to relearn it. He used to always say, like, there's no such thing as good writing, only good rewriting. And I kind of applied that to my life.
Hmm.
I'm like, I have to, like, unlearn all the behaviors that were defense mechanisms and
Hmm.
that were for survival. I have to unlearn that and relearn a new way of living life. Um, and yeah, it's been one heck of a journey, and I'm
Yes.
very proud of where I am right now.
And you should be. I'm so happy that you said that. Celebrate it for all of the hell that you've gone through in your life.
Yeah,
Celebrate it now. You you are such a champion. What a beautiful lady. What a beautiful story. You just don't know, like, to be like, for you to not be a bitter person. People have gone through far less, and they are some true rotten eggs to themselves and to others.
right,
But
right.
you're in your story, and that's the truth of the matter. Like, you meet some people, you go, what happened to you?
Right. Like, who hurt you?
Yes, let's talk,
Right. Right. Right.
what's going, because we understand that there is a root, like you said earlier, when you had your moment that you're not so proud of with your
Mhm,
really good friend. There
mhm.
was a root to that because for so long you had to hide how you truly felt. Because if you really showed how you were feeling in that home, that beating would have been worse.
Right. Right.
So the unpacking, people need to understand, it's like it's imperative that we do that. It's continuous. And I don't know, Lauren, you said you put it in here, but this is the young lady y'all could still find her. I don't. I think her at the Comprehensive Wellness Milwaukee, and Chamika, if I have to share with you afterwards,
Okay.
I will, because I know that our time is running low. I really want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. I knew that this time was going to go by so fast, and there is just so much more, Chamika, I know that you have to share with everyone, and we can't wait for the book when that comes
I
out.
saw the right into the book.
we, we have to get, we're going to get that doctorate first. You have inspired me. You have no idea.
Oh, I'm gonna cry now. Gotta go listen to some
No,
TikTok. Oh,
no, you have inspired me. What a resilient lady you are. And this means so much to me that you were willing to come on. You told me, "Oh, I'm honored, like me? You're asking me to come on your show." And I said, "She don't realize I'm honored that she even said yes, that she agreed to it." We oftentimes, people, for those of us that have had traumatic childhoods, and you have no idea what I've experienced.
right.
So this is resonating deeply with me because of what I've gone through. I know what it's like to be homeless as a child. I know what it's like to be homeless as an adult. And in high school, you had no idea what I was going through.
Right. Right.
Right?
Right.
You know? So I'm just thankful that we get to hear your story from your lens, not someone else telling us your story. So with the few minutes that we have left, I still want to encourage all of you, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Relationship Entertainment Television. They're actually on Roku. You can go back and watch shows. They have a business show. They have a show with gentlemen on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and they just play around on there, and they have, sometimes they have, questions that people can send in and ask. But as we get ready to close out, Chamika, I want you to finish this sentence. There's nothing like.
So many things. Like there's nothing like God-given family. And I say that because, you mentioned earlier, like, you can be related to somebody, but you're not relatable. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
they're not relatable. There's really, in my world, there's nothing like God-given family. There's been so many people in my life that I am truly grateful for, that have pushed me, that have given me gentle nudges, that have called me out on my mess even when I didn't want to hear it, um, that have encouraged me. And honestly, like I thank God for them. So
Wow. I am so grateful for you. I can't tell you that enough.
I am grateful for you for letting me do this. I was terrified, um, but it's something that has been on my heart for a while to be able to kind of share more of me with other folks. So I'm really grateful that you have this platform and just giving me the opportunity to just have a conversation.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. And I know that everyone that is
I
watching
feel
and knows you, they,
so-
thank you all. They are so proud of you. Again, for some reason, I don't know why I missed some. It didn't come through, Lauren. But you can follow Comprehensive Wellness on Facebook and at COMP Well MKE, excuse me, on Instagram. And that way, if you guys need a therapist, that lady is. She's awesome. And Chamika Ellis, from foster to doctor. What an inspiration. Let me tell you all something. We have been given this platform for women to be able to share their stories. And this is my new season back, and I'll be going until April 13th, every Thursday on the RETV platform. If you haven't subscribed already, especially on YouTube, set your reminder. We go live 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I want you all to be safe, be well, and be great. Have a good night.
Have a good night.